Section number 3, back neckline drop and shoulder shaping. The first step is to place numbered stitch markers to help us guide through this process. I have 10 stitch markers numbered right here. If you do not have them, do not worry. Use a safety pin, just write the number, attach it, and that's your numbered stitch marker. Or alternatively, if you have the plastic ones at the base, they're wide enough, you can use Sharpie and just write the number on the plastic marker. Instead of safety pin, just use the bulb stitch markers and do the same thing. So you have this. Right now on the screen, you see what instructions look like for the stitch marker placement. And the number in parentheses is for the wider front version. I use the regular one, so I use the first number. First thing first, slip the beginning of the round stitch marker. And according to my instructions, as you can see on the screen, I have to knit 18 stitches and place stitch marker number 1. This is half of the flat back part of the sweater or the neckline. Stitch marker number 1. Then I have to knit 8 stitches for my size and place stitch marker number 2. This marks the back neckline drop area. So from here to here. Stitch marker number 3. This is my shoulder area. These are the short rows at the front while you work on the back neckline drop. So we can connect them from the back neckline drop to the front, carried over through the shoulder area. This is the front neckline curve interval from stitch marker 4 to 5. Flat part of the front neckline drop between stitch marker 5 and 6. Between stitch marker 6 and stitch marker 7, left side front neckline curve. Stitch marker 7 to 8, short rows at the front for the back neckline drop. Shoulder stitches, stitch marker number 8, stitch marker number 9, stitch marker number 9 to stitch marker number 10, back neckline drop for the left side, and the rest of the flat part of the neckline, back neckline. You can see the diagram of the stitch markers placed, and between 1 and 2 highlighted in red and 10 and 9, it's the short rows at the back. Between 2 and 3 and 9 and 8, highlighted in green, the shoulder shaping area. Between 3 and 4 and 7 and 8, highlighted in yellow, the short row for the back neckline drop at the front. Between 4 and 5 and 6 and 7, highlighted in blue the front neckline curve short row area. This area highlighted in blue between 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 will be worked in the next section, but we're putting those stitch markers to have them there to guide us through. Back neckline drop and shoulder shaping at the right side. Start at beginning of the round marker. We skip or knit through stitch markers number 1 and 2, and then refer to the PDF for the shoulder shaping. A separate PDF provided. It's highlighted in green and marked with number 1. To move to number 2, this is where the first time we begin the short rows for the back neckline drop at the front. It's highlighted in yellow and marked with number 2. I will explain how to use stitch markers to guide you through this process, and then when we create the first turn here and work back to stitch markers number 2 and 1, it's marked with number 3 and highlighted in red on this diagram. And I will explain how to position stitch markers to guide you through that process. Number 3 is the back neckline drop short rows. You will be working between stitch marker number 1 and number 4 until you're done with back neckline drop shaping. Do not forget to make increases on the right side for the shoulders. Prior to beginning work on the right side for the back neckline drop, I suggest you place stitch markers, supporting stitch markers between stitch marker number 3 and 4. This has to be done ahead of time. First instructions for the short rows that you will use will be the short rows at the front between stitch markers number 3 and number 4. They consist of 5 stitches and 5 turns, and you're supposed to turn every stitch 5 times. Let me show you how to use supporting stitch markers to mark every turn so you will not get lost and it will be easier for you to complete this task. But I will show you how to use removable stitch markers as your little helpers. What you do is to not forget when you come to the turn, you place in each stitch at which you will make the turn, you will place the stitch marker inside that stitch, like so. The instructions between stitch markers number 3 and 4 tell me to turn every stitch. When I get to this stitch, I will knit it, or I will work that stitch, whatever it is, purl or knit, and I will turn my work and I will make the double stitch. The next stitch, when I come back to this double stitch that I created, I will work that double stitch and I will come to the next stitch at which I will make the next turn. So I will knit the double stitch, I will come to this stitch, I will turn my work, I will make the double stitch, and I will work back. So total of 5 stitch markers. This is over exaggerating, but this will be clearer. 3. The next turn, when you come to this double stitch, you will knit the stitch, you will knit the double stitch, you will knit to this stitch, remove the stitch markers as you come to the stitches and work them, and then you will remove the stitch marker, you will turn work, you will make the double stitch, and you will continue with your work. When you come back to this double stitch, you will know your next short row turn will be at the next stitch marker. And one more. So these stitch markers mark 5 turns that I will have to make in this section. Oh, sorry, wrong stitch. Right there. This one. So this is what it looks like. A turn at every stitch, and you will be removing them as you come to them, so you know where exactly to turn. We will go through steps 1, 2, and 3. What we do is slip the beginning of the round stitch marker, and knit to stitch marker number 2. The number 3 highlighted is the third step. We can't make a turn here, so we have to get to the shoulder first and work on area number 1. When you work from stitch marker number 1 to 2 and start the shoulder shaping, place your guiding stitch markers inside the stitches with turns. Short rows at the back. Between stitch markers number 1 and stitch marker number 2, we will have to turn every 1 stitch 2 times and then every 2 stitches 3 times for my size, and I'm working on size 36. It means that I will work and turn at the first stitch, then second stitch, fourth stitch, sixth stitch, and 8th stitch. Total of 8 stitches and 5 turns. From the stitch marker number 2, place the first stitch marker based on the short row instructions at the back of this section. The instructions read to make short turns every stitch twice. So this is the first stitch from the stitch marker number 2. This is our first turn. The second turn will be in the second stitch right here. What it means is you will come to this stitch, you will work it, you will make the turn, you will make the double stitch, you will turn the work, you will make the double stitch, and you will go back and work through shoulders. When you come back to this double stitch, you work the double stitch, and then you know this is marked as your turning stitch. You work this stitch, remove the stitch marker, turn work, create double stitch, go back. Then we will have it 2 stitches away. So this stitch will be plain knit or purl, and then this stitch, the second stitch, will be your turning point. You will work it, turn work, create a double stitch, go back. Then you will have second time of 2 stitches away. So you will work the double stitch when you come back. You will knit or work 2 stitches. This stitch, because it's marked with the stitch marker, it's going to be your next turning point. There it is. And the last turn will be right before stitch marker number 1. And it will be this stitch right here. This is for my size. I'm working on size 36 for your reference. When you placed all of these, continue work and go through the shoulder increases. This is what the shoulder increases chart and written instructions look like. Follow them, they're in separate PDF, and make the increases. Here we will make 1 left. You can make them in whatever method you use. I have a beautiful video on slipped lifted increases. You can use regular lifted increase, or you can just use the old method of picking up strand between 2 stitches and then making the left or right leaning increase. This one I will use just the regular lifted increase here and making 1 left. Making another increase. Making a right stitch, right leaning stitch. 1 more right leaning stitch. And I will keep up with the shoulder shaping instructions. They will be partially done while we build the back neckline drop, and then in the next section, section number 4, when we work on the front neckline curve, we will be continuing building the shoulders and making increases. What do we do here? Here is the anchoring points, the turn points for the back neckline drop. We are not at the front yet. We're just building the back neckline drop. What do we do here? The instructions read to make each stitch to make a turn 5 times 1 stitch away. The supporting stitch marker tells me that I need to work this stitch and turn. I will remove this marker. I will knit this stitch. I will turn my work. I will make the double stitch. To make the double stitch the right way, I would just slip it off the left needle onto the right, and I will wrap the yarn over the right needle, tighten it up, and continue working. This is the way I do it, the shortcut. I just already have the double stitch here by tightening the working yarn and bringing it over the left needle tip, and I insert my needle into here and just slip it over. It's already double stitch right there. Slip stitch marker number 3. Work back through the shoulder shaping area. Just purl the stitches. Keep checking the stitch counts as you go. And we came to stitch marker number 2. Slip stitch marker number 2 and work your first stitch, turn here. Remove the stitch marker off of the first stitch. It tells us that we need to work this stitch and turn work. Purl it, turn work. Work the rest of the short rows for the back neckline drop, going from 3 to 1 to 2 and back to 3. Between stitch markers number 1 and 2, just build those short rows going through the shoulder shaping to the front for the short rows at the front. You should end the back neckline drop shaping at the stitch marker number 1 at your last turn, and then we will turn work and move on to the left side. Do the same thing here. The right way to do it would be to bring the yarn to the front, slip the stitch from the left needle onto the right, and wrap the yarn over the right needle. That's how you make the turn. I do it easier way, like that. When you start working it, when you will start knitting it, I will just bring the tip from the back to the front, creating the double stitch, slip it, tighten it up. Slip stitch marker number 2, make increases. Follow the PDF, follow the chart or the written instructions. And we're back at stitch marker number 3. Work this double stitch, knit it together. This is our next turn. Remove the stitch marker, knit the stitch, turn work, make the double stitch, purl this stitch, slip the stitch marker number 3, purl to stitch marker number 2, slip stitch marker number 2, work the double stitch, and the next stitch marker tells us where to turn, and it's this stitch. Remove it, purl it, turn work. Make the next increase. Slip stitch marker number 3. Knit the stitch, knit the double stitch, make the next turn. Next turn marked, 1 stitch away, work it, turn work. And work to your to the next double stitch. Slip stitch marker number 2, the double stitch would be 1 stitch away, purl the stitch, purl the double stitch. There's no stitch marker here, purl this stitch. This is your 2 stitch marker, 2 stitch turn interval. This is the turning stitch. Remove the stitch marker, purl the stitch, turn work. So this is what it means, 2 stitches away for the next turn. So this is 2 stitch turn, 2 stitch turn. Repeat that until you will end up here at stitch marker number 1. I'm on my last short row turn at the stitch marker number 1. I am working my double stitch, purl it. I will knit the stitch, and this is my marked stitch of a short row turn. I work it, I knit the last stitch before stitch marker number 1, I turn work. On a diagram, this is number 3 part, highlighted in red. This is the back neckline drop that just formed right here. This part here between stitch marker number 2 and 3 is the shoulder shaping. This is what it looks like at the moment. And between stitch markers number 3 and 4 is where we had to touch down and turn work to be able to build the back neckline drop. So now that you turned work, follow the diagram number 4. We will have to transition from the right side to the left side. The lines and arrows shown in green. We will have to work through some areas. Number 1 is the shoulder shaping, do not forget that. Number 2 is the very last double stitch between right next to stitch marker number 4. And then we'll have to just knit all of the stitches and slip all of the markers till we get to stitch marker number 8. At that point, we will build the shoulders marked with 1, and we will get to number 2, our first turn, here on the left side. The first turn is at the back, not at the front. So the first turn will be after stitch marker number 9. And then from that point, we will turn and go to stitch marker number 8, slip it, and make our first turn. And then we will just repeat that process. You will refer to the next diagram. We're at stitch marker number 1. We turn our work. We create the last double stitch. This double stitch, be careful because it stays here and we'll have to work it. We'll have to slip it in the future. Be careful to slip it as a double stitch and not unravel it. Work your way to the double stitch at stitch marker number 4. Remember to make increases from stitch marker number 2 to stitch marker number 3. Again, just follow the chart for that. Made all of the increases for the shoulder. Knit to double stitch between stitch markers number 3 and number 4. Knit, double stitch. Slip stitch marker number 4. And knit all the way to stitch marker number 8 right here. We just knit the interval between stitch markers number 7 and 8 because there's nowhere to turn. We need to get back to the back between stitch markers number 9 and 10 to make the first turn, to go back through the shoulders, and then we'll be able to turn here. So we'll be going back and forth between stitch marker number 10 and stitch marker number 7 until we end up at stitch marker number 7, our last turn. So back and forth, it will look like an oval shape, just like here. We're building the shoulder. That's what we're doing, and building the back neckline drop. We need that little drop there, or rise. So we're doing the same thing here. Repeat the instructions for the shoulder from the beginning. Slip stitch marker number 9. In here, I would mark my turns the same way I did for the right side. So from this stitch marker, there's 8 stitches and 5 turns. My first turn is 1 stitch away from stitch marker number 9. My second turn is 1 stitch away from the previous stitch. My third turn is 2 stitches away from previously marked stitch. Skip 1 stitch and place the stitch marker into the second, or stitch number 4 from marker 9. The next turn will be 2 stitches away from the last turn, and it will be stitch number 6. The next short row term will be in stitch number 8, or right before stitch marker number 10. And I will mark it right here, right now. You can mark the the short rows at the front between stitch markers number 8 and 7, but I don't want to stretch those stitches too much, and I know that I have to turn every stitch here 5 times. So this one is easy, but this one, mark it. Stitch number 1 after stitch marker number 9 has a stitch marker, supporting stitch marker for the turn. Number 2 stitch does, number 4, number 6, and number 8. This is size 36. Follow instructions for your size. This tells me to turn. Remove the stitch marker, knit the stitch, turn work. Make the double stitch, slip the stitch marker, work to stitch marker number 8, slip stitch marker number 8, make your first turn. If you marked it, remove the stitch marker, turn work. Make the double stitch, slip stitch marker, make your increases. Slip stitch marker number 9, knit the double stitch, turn work, stitch marker, remove it, knit the stitch, turn work. Make the double stitch and work back to the next double stitch. Stitch marker number 8, double stitch, purl it, purl 1 more, make a turn, create a double stitch, slip stitch marker number 8, work increases. Make the increases for the shoulder. Slip stitch marker number 9. Knit stitch, knit the double stitch. This stitch doesn't have stitch marker. This is 2 stitches away from the short row turn. So knit a stitch, remove the stitch marker, knit the second stitch, turn work. Create double stitch and work back to the next double stitch after stitch marker number 8. Right there. Slip stitch marker number 8, work the double stitch, purl the next stitch, turn work. We're between stitch markers 7 and 8. It's 1 stitch away, short row turns. Create a double stitch, knit to stitch marker number 8, make shoulder increases from stitch marker number 8 to stitch marker number 9. Slip stitch marker number 9, work to the double stitch, knit double stitch. The next stitch doesn't have the stitch marker. Knit it. This is our turning point. Remove the stitch marker, work the stitch, turn work, work back to double stitch, slipping markers. The double stitch, purl it, purl the next stitch, turn work. Continue working the shoulder increases, going back and forth between the back neckline drop and the short rows at the front until you end up at stitch marker number 7. I'm at the stitch marker number 7, making my last turn and working back to the shoulder shaping. Do not forget to make the increases at the shoulder shaping. Make the increases at the shoulder shaping. Slip stitch marker number 9. Work all of the stitches. Don't forget about knitting the double stitch at stitch marker number 10 and work back to the beginning of the round marker. Just knit all of the stitches to this point, and that will be the completion of back neckline drop round. It's 1 full round with short row stops at the right and the left. We've completed the round for the back neckline drop and partially shoulder shaping. What I'm doing is I just want to show you what it looks like, and I want to spread out the stitches. This is also the method I use to transfer the stitches to slightly longer cable. I just attach to the other end the longer cable and transfer all of the stitches this way. This is also the method that I use when I try the sweater on. Please don't try it on, because before it's blocked, it just never looks right, and it won't look the right way until you block it. But to show you what it looks like, this is what we've built. Now you can see that this is the normal regular curve for the front neckline and the slight curve at the back. So now you actually see the shape being formed. These are the shoulders, and we're building this material for the shoulders. The neckline will be slightly deeper. It will not look as deep, but once it's blocked, it will be deeper. It will look like this. The cinched little line there will keep the neckline from completely unraveling and stretching out. Unraveling, stretching out. So this is what it looks like. Now, referring back to diagram number 5 of the pattern, we worked all of the short row shaping and creating back neckline drop on the right side. Then we transitioned to the left side where we built the shoulders partially. We will continue working on the shoulders. And then we built the back neckline drop on the left side. We ended up knitting the last double stitch at stitch marker number 10, finishing the row at the beginning of the round stitch marker. The round, this is one full round. And then the pattern right before the diagram 6 tells you to actually break the yarn right here. Leave enough tail, but break the yarn. Why don't we just continue working with the short rows? Because if we are not to break the yarn and continue working to stitch marker number 4, where we will start the front neckline curve shaping, we will be off by this much. We need to keep it all in the same row because the increases for the shoulders are done only on the right side. And if we are to work the right side right now row, then we will have to make increases. The increases will be made here, but not here when we will go back. They will be offset. I don't want it to be offset. I want it to be all in one round or in one row, all of the increases. So they're symmetrical, they're not offset. This is the reasoning behind it. And at this point, actually, you're ready to move on to the next section, section number 4, front neckline curve shaping.